How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 3, but this will be the end. We've literally finished the game. Now we're just going to be doing it's their version of a rap party, basically, what I do at the end of, like, all the series I do, where I just kind of consolidate all my thoughts, but they do the theory crafting, which is funny, because it's like, they do theory crafting, but it's like, it's almost like the writer imagines himself as a stand-in with the audience, and kind of showcases just how much thought he's put into it and how it parallels with what we're probably thinking, which, good grief, is this going to be a nightmare to untangle, but we're going to do the best we can. I don't know, it's probably not going to be very long, because like usually I've included this in the end of the other videos, and it's usually like a really long episode. This time we're going to just like do this ending, whatever it is, and I'll just kind of share my thoughts as we go, but you know, ultimately this will be the end of chapter 3, and we'll get ready for chapter 4 next. But yeah, I guess it's time to just dive right in. I don't know what to expect because, like many of you said in the comments from last week, this one basically took everything I thought I understood about the world and that we were dealing with and just threw it out the window in a lot of ways. So I'm not really sure where to go. I was hoping that with a little bit of time, I would have a better grasp or a better like cohesive theory. I think it just got worse. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think anymore. So yeah, we'll just have to, we'll see what happens. But this will be a good time to reflect and kind of ponder, and we'll see what thoughts come around based on what that is. But yeah, don't expect any great insights here, because frankly, I can already tell there's not much I'm going to be able to offer. So, oh well, here's what it is. Let's jump right in. Let's enjoy ourselves. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. Oh, it's like an epilogue, too. Oops, I didn't realize there was going to be an epilogue. It was cold, too. It hurt. Each sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. Oh, gosh, he didn't die? Oh, I made a horrible mistake. This wasn't the end, was it? Well, I think it must have been, though. Like, this must be because it, like, I got the achievement that said, like, it was the end, or I'd seen all the tips. But, so it's like, if that wasn't the end, then this is, like, close to it. When it came to, I was laying face first on the dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, turned blue or red and oozing blood. I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony. I felt whatever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge was from where I'd fallen. Considering I dropped from there, it was a miracle I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken upside-down car seat, which I guess some prankster had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying right underneath me, allowing me to escape instant death? Miraculous. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I failed to die, and now was still stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, and it looked like the only 1 or 2 hours had passed. But my body's sluggishness didn't make me feel at all like so short a time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep for half a decade. The more feeling returned to my body, the more the pain flooded in. It hurt so much it would have been better not to have woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. The term Coach's clinic brought memories back one after another, memories I wish I hadn't recalled. Satoko was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now. And she would put on some clothes, go to the clinic, and get checked up, report how crazy I'd seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. This time they would find out for real that I'd killed her uncle and arrest me, or would they just send me to a mental institution like I thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Please someone stop all the pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. He's walking? What the fetch? That's insane! I went downstream and then through an animal trail-like path through the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. For a while now, I'd been smelling a terrible stench of burning eggs, and it made my face scrunch up. And then, at last, I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. It was the first time I'd heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rose up the chorus in the evening. Always something to hear. Couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the treetops. Remember when I said my theory that he was just in hell at this point? I mean, no sounds. He's smelling what sounds like bad eggs, which is sulfur. I'd never experienced this sort of quiet before. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow. Many of the leaves were spread on the ground, despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently at the side of the road had yellowed, browned, and lost their vigor. Only the sunlight itself was the June Hinamizawa I knew. And yet it seemed like the seasons had switched all of a sudden. What is happening? Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds led me to a spot a few small insects turned on their backs. They weren't moving. Okay. They were corpses. I looked closer to see insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had been collecting them as a sample and then strewn them about. The stench, what was it? It was terrible, like burned eggs. Combined with all the bug corpses and the leaves falling from the trees in the summer. Had someone sprayed herbicide or pesticide around here? Oh gosh, did you curse everybody? Didn't he say curse, didn't he wish the whole thing would die, all of it? Did he just kill the entire, valley? Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it pest disinfection or something once or twice a year. I hadn't run into anybody, despite how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, and yet it felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. Well, with the smell, nobody wanted to be walking around outside. Just what was this, anyway? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. Hinamizawa was silent. The school would come into view right after turning this corner, and yet I couldn't hear a commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts the children always made. It was simply quiet. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. And finally I heard something. It was the sound of a few trucks. There were a few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard, idling. About 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trunks. It was hot and humid, even in my casual clothes. I could imagine how unbearable that must have been. And then I remembered. Our school was rented from the Forest Service field office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for Forest Service trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did forest rangers do anyway? I felt bad for them having to work in such heat, with such a stench about. They were taking colorful cargo out of the trucks and lining it up in the schoolyard. Oh gosh, it's blue tarps, isn't it? They were containers, fairly large ones, inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavily, too, they were being carried in pairs. They lined them up very neatly, like tuna at the Riverside Fish Market. Several dozen hundreds of tuna were completely filled the fairly wide schoolyard up. Yeah, he just killed everybody, didn't he? I forgot my pain for a little while, captivated by the big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. I stood there, watching in a daze. The people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed me out, and they shouted a few things back and forth. I thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post-haste. But then 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside, they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered their trucks, but I could tell they were completely full. As they passed, there was an awful smell like the one that made me want to choke. It wasn't the same burned egg smell as before, but even worse one, like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I'd been enshrouded by one terrible stench after another all day. Then certain white letters emblazoned on the side of the passing truck caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Force. The SDF? What? Self-Defense Force like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard?
Oi, kimi. Doko kara haitte kita?
Suddenly someone slapped me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around and a canopied SDF jeep was parked there. The SDF person had a green raincoat and gas masks like the movies, carrying a compressed air cylinder. Yeah, because everything died and they don't know why, so they're prepared for a biological thing. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere.
Doko kara haitte kita?
When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound on my head. It made the SDF people exchange glances. I couldn't see their faces through the mask, but they seemed surprised.
Kimi wa Hinamizawa no jumin ka? Jusho to namae wa ieru ka? Ichou, koko ni sunde masu kedo, namae wa Maebara Keiichi desu. Jusho wa Shishiboneshi Hinamizawa mura.
After seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watched from the jeep started talking to the radio.
本部、応答願います。本部、 応答
We
願
have
い
a
ます。
survivor.
402生存者発見。繰り返す。402生存者発見。場所は営林署入り口前。
本部了解。生存者を至急保護されたし、生存者の容体は？
生存者は健在。全身に外傷を認められるも生命に支障なし。自立歩行可能。これより保護し本部へ送致します。
I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF? I couldn't help but think it seemed a little bit much. They urged me into the back of the Jeep, and then they told me to put on the gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. It was heavy, hard to see out of, hot and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through that lens made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point, I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask.
すみません。何かあったんですか？
君はどこにいたんだ？何をしていたんだ？
Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you.
ずっと山に入ったところにある吊り橋から落っこちて、河原で多分気絶してました。今日が何曜日かもよくわからないです。
今日は昭和58年の6月22日。
Isn't that the same day?
水曜日だ。
That surprised me. Satsuko pushed me off the bridge on Tuesday the 21st. Okay, so it's been a full day. That meant I've been asleep on the riverbed for an entire day.
改めて聞きますけど、何があったんですか？なんで自衛隊が来てるんです？何かの訓練ですか？
Had my question been that difficult for him? Yeah. None of the troopers would answer me. The one in the driver's seat talking on his own radio turned on the vehicles. He turned the dial to some broadcast station or another came in. I tried to listen to the voice of the radio announcer I was familiar with.
より首相官邸で行われました。記者団からの自衛隊の災害出動が迅速に行われなかったことが前例のない未曾有の大災害に直結したのではないかとの質問に対し、僕の官房長官は次のようにコメントしました。
You know, I was ready for crazy. I didn't think it was going to be this crazy.
でありまして、県知事からの派遣要請を受けて迅速に対応したものと思っております。
と、このように述べ、要請を受けてからの自衛隊の出動は迅速であった。むしろ、県側の事態把握に遅れがあった可能性を示唆しました。そもそも、自衛隊の派遣を要請した県知事は、災害発生から前例のない大災害であることをいつ認識できたのか、そして災害派遣要請までにいわゆるお役所的なロスタイムが生じ、被害首相官邸より報道部の尾形記者がお送りしました。さて、ここでもう一度災害発生からの行政の対応を振り返ります。
In the middle of the night between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Hinamizawa village, Shishiban. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in the Hinamizawa area, CO2 gas. The gas was relatively heavy. As it spewed out, it began to flow. The flow went down along the river and headed directly into Hinamizawa village. After a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. With most residents asleep, it's as though they died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe sinking into the middle of the night caused its detection to come too late. But there was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. The news dealer's shop in Okonomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper at its branch office in Hinamizawa. Usually the stop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer's shop made repeated calls, got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well.
非常に悔やまれています。この時点で警察か消防への連絡があったなら、事態はもっと改善されていた可能性が高いでしょう。
Holy crap.
少なくとも村全滅という惨劇は免れた可能性があります。
So he finished that says this is a kind of a real thing that can happen. I feel like I recently heard a story about like there was a lake that had a bunch of CO2 gas like trapped underneath it, but then it released it all and it like hit a nearby like township or campground and just like tons of people just died in their sleep. No idea, like they had no idea what was happening. 6 a.m. Residents in the area of the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. Oh, so it wasn't CO2 gas, it was a different gas, probably sulfuric gas. The fire department received the same reports, all the same confined region. They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported it to the local police. 6:30 a.m. Contact was lost with a patrol car on duty in the Hinamizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported it to the prefectural police at 7:15 a.m. 8 a.m. The governor was traveling to nearby prefectures for inspection, so in accordance with regulations, the prefectural environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to director in general and set up a disaster countermeasure office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasures came too late.
近年、市民団体によって指摘されていますが、議員待遇者との視察旅行は完全に親睦を目的にしたもので、主演三昧だと噂されています。近い筋の話では、知事は徹夜で飲んだくれて、泥酔状態で就寝していたそうです。環境部長から電話があった時も泥酔していて、全く取り合ってもらえなかったのだそうです。
The thing is though, like, it's not like we're all gonna be living normal lives when disasters strike, right? Like, I understand it being like, it feels irresponsible that he was not prepared or able to take things seriously. But you then would have to say, hey, if you work in a position where you have to be able to respond to disasters, you should never be drinking. And while I would be okay with that, I feel like it's an unreasonable thing to expect people to do. Just because, you know, people live lives. And so the authorities, in the hour or so it took for the governor to grasp the situation to sober up, did nothing but accumulate information.
知事は言うに及びませんが、知事不在時には本部長を務めることになる環境部長にも怠慢の責任が問われるでしょう。また、県としても大災害を想定したマニュアルが用意されておらず、対応が常に後手に回ってしまったのが致命的でした。
9:12 a.m. On the advice of the prefectural police, the governor requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit equipped with protective equipment arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident's outbreak.
とにかく深夜の就寝中というのが不運でした。同じ災害でも日中に起こっていれば全く違ったでしょう。
Yeah. All households in the Hinamizawa village region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground, but their results are predicted to only increase that number.
スタジオにはゲストとして火山性の災害にお詳しい地学博士の藤原先生にお越しいただいております。先生、このような恐ろしい6月が突然湧き出すようなことはあるのでしょうか。
What a question. Can it happen? It just did!
河口部に限定して申し上げれば決して珍しいことではありません。火山大国日本にはたくさんの活火山がありますが、それらの河口部はいずれも危険なガスの噴出する危険性があり、一般登山者も河口部周辺には立ち入らないのが一般的です。
Yeah, I think I even saw a vlog of someone they were traveling, I think near Hiroshima. And I think to the north of it is a still active volcano. And it has this issue with gases, like it releases gases that could be toxic and dangerous. And so like the standing order is like, hey, don't go hiking on the area. And so like this vlogger in particular, they went on a plane trip. They did a plane aerial tour of the volcano, which did look pretty cool. But like that was the reasoning, was that like hiking it was too dangerous.
では今回、南沢村を襲った卵のフラン臭のするガスというのも河口部では一般的なガスということですか？
卵のフラン臭という特徴から、おそらく火山ガスの中でも事故例の多い硫化水素によるものだと考えられます。
Yeah, there's a
高い
lot
濃
of
度
it.
であれば非常に危険なものです。
南沢村は火山の河口部とは全く縁遠い場所にあるわけですが、そういった河口部でない場所にもその硫化水素が発生することがあるのでしょうか？
詳しいことが分かっていないので、まだはっきりとしたことは申し上げられませんが、外国の例で温泉の地下のマグマだまりからガスが噴出したという記録があります。極めて希少な例ですが、必ずしも河口部でなくても発生の可能性はあるということです。
Yeah, you need to remember it's a volcanically active area, so just because you're not living literally at the feet of an active volcano doesn't mean that you're not living on volcanic activity. I mean, I grew up out west, fairly near to Yellowstone National Park, and this is definitely a consideration there as well. I think it's part of the reason that's also good that it's a national park where like you can't really build and live in, because I bet you if there were cities in the area around like the Yellowstone like supervolcano crater, that this would be something that happened more often. In fact, I recently went back there this last summer, as I posted on the channel a little bit. I went back there and visited, and yeah, that's rotten egg smell. Like I've been there, so yeah, like I've seen that stuff and this very gas.
先生、ありがとうございました。今、防衛庁から発表があった模様です。防衛庁の森川さん。
はい、防衛庁です。先ほど防衛庁は南沢村ガス災害の主原因となった火山性ガスについて、陸上自衛隊科学学校での分析の結果、二酸化炭素と硫化水素の混合ガスによるものだったと発表しました。
Carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. And so Keiichi must have been lucky that he was far enough up the river. But it's odd though, because it flowed down the river. So like he should have been taken out by it. He just got really lucky or something. And then the other idea too is that when he woke up and he like limped his way back into town, the gas must have dissipated enough because he didn't just drop dead.
森川さん、そのガスは依然として噴出を続け、周囲に拡大しているのでしょうか？
現在、南沢村で救助活動に入っている自衛隊第9師団の報告として、ガスの濃度は徐々に薄まりつつある。ですが依然、南沢村地区は危険な状態にあることには変わりなく、今後も注意深く監視を続ける必要があるようです。
防衛庁から報道部の森川記者がお伝えしました。続きまして、避難を余儀なくされている沖宮地区住民の模様をリポートします。現在、避難所の一つとなっている下篠崎小学校に報道部の現地記者がお伝えいたします。
何ですかそれ。
Inside the jeep, clambering and bouncing along the rough road, none answered my muted question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. Where was Hinamizawa Village anyway? Some place deep in the mountains, right? Names of places I'd heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of. Wiped out. What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many died, how many were injured? How many people were alive? Or where did everyone evacuate to? Eventually we came into view of Coach's clinic. For the first time I saw the flag of Japan hanging on the pole outside. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. My NESDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot, and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothes and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic, carrying a stretcher.
もう大丈夫だよ。具合は歩けるかい？
歩けます。
All because of my owls, they forced me to lay on the stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio.
外傷多数。骨折もしくは内臓損傷の可能性大。頭部に大きな裂傷。瞳孔正常。眼底に出血なくも脳内損傷の可能性は否定できず。
And then from the clinic entrance, people laying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothes, they were from Hinamizawa, and that's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck. Two troops holding shoulders and legs like some kind of baggage picked them up and threw them into the truck. Dang. That'd be such a horrible thing to see. In the trunk of the truck, people's bodies piled in heaps. They were just like baggage. They told me they were already nothing but shells. At that moment, I remembered all the colorful sacks filling the trunks, and them lined up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. Corpses, corpses, corpses. So many corpses.
バカ！犠牲者を粗末に扱うな！彼は村の住民だぞ。
The troops carrying the sacks answered with a humble salute. The world didn't need this insane version of Hinamizawa. My final wish, again, it was granted. Yeah, that sucks. I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, and then it happened the next day. Then please tomorrow morning let me die. That insane night, it's still going on. Please, please end it already. Is that really how that ends for him? Is that he just wishes for himself?
おい、意識が損失したぞ。患者の名前を呼びかけろ。早く。
前原くん、聞こえるかい？聞こえるなら瞬きでいいからしてくれ。前原くん、前原くん、前原くん。
Suddenly the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries.
呼吸が停止したぞ。気道確保。人工呼吸。絶対に生かせ。畜生。畜生。もうこれ以上死者はごめんだぞ。死んでもいい命なんかないんだ。殺すな。殺すな。
I could hear the voice of a man crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace that they soaked into my heart too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko. If this is the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, then this is a little much, Oyashiro-sama. Why did you never punish me? Come to think of it, Satoko said something. Oyashiro-sama's actual curse never goes for the target at first, but kills everyone they love before that. Oyashiro-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse, I told myself at the very end, that it wasn't my curse that destroyed it, but Oyashiro-sama's. Given that I was in a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious. But last of all, I realized one thing. Yeah. Today, I had not heard those footsteps following me. Even once. And now I was liberated. And the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind. Their tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. Escaped at last. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred at Hinamizawa Village, Tsushibon Prefecture. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide erupted from Onikakushi swamp, one of Higarashi's area's winter sources, and spread it through the entire village. Of course it came from the swamp. There were 1,200 victims. 20 have gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigations, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onikakushi swamp, and the gas that gushed from it was determined to be the cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forth claiming this disaster was cursed based on the Hinamizawa village legend, first sparking a wave of chaos. There were apparently local legends of a curse spreading into miasma, destroying the village. And some scholars believe a similar gas disaster may have happened in the past and remain part of these legends. More extreme periodicals suggested this was an extension of a string of freak death incidents that had been happening over recent years in Hinamizawa village, stirring interest in theories about the curse of Oyashiro-sama. In addition, relatives of those in Hinamizawa village who had escaped the disaster complained of sickness afterwards and were hospitalized. Some of them even died of unknown causes, further encouraging such extreme opinions. On top of that, several relatives professed to being possessed by Oyashiro-sama's curse committed suicide in strange ways. And an impact of the disasters had on the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas sneaking around in the middle of the night, killing people, spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficult breathing, headaches, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being obsessed by it began doing odd things. Most of these were mistakenly attributed by the tabloid press. But afterward, some even began to call the mental issues arising from the Hinamizawa tragedy as Hinamizawa Syndrome. The Hinamizawa village region, an object of all kinds of rumors and speculation, is currently closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. Her prohibition was at one point undone as a result of the decrease in the gas's density, but that autumn another gas burst was confirmed, leading to the area being cordoned off again. Word is the area is sound asleep, all traces of its former life intact and left to rot. That's so crazy. That'd be so weird. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Maribara, age something, who lived at blank Hinamizawa village. At the time of rescue, he had some trouble breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. So he didn't die. He's currently in a general hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press have been asking for him for some time, but all interviews are being refused. What did he see in Hinamizawa? What happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Hinamizawa village? Today he remains silent, unwilling to speak of it. Great Hinamizawa disaster and Memoriam list. Oh, fetch. Toмотake-san possibly killed Takano-san, strangled to death in the mountain. Oishi went missing during investigation. Possible commit suicide in the clinic. Rika Fidede possibly murdered at the shrine. Investigation is suspended. The gas disaster memorial list. Reina, Mion, Oreo, Satoko, Teppei, Ichiro, Aiko, Daiki, Suguru, Rumiko, Keiichi, Yukikazu, Tatsuyoshi, Shion. Oh wow, she was committed suicide at the victim's hospital. Keiichi attempted suicide at the victim's hospital. Diagnosed with severe mental disorder due to disaster and ongoing long-term treatment at prefecture facility. He's refused all interviews requested by media and is living his days in peace. Okay. Scenario, Ryuksho, partner in crime. So this is like an actual like. Did the other games have like an actual scroll list like this, or is this like a first? Because then maybe you have a good point when people are saying things like this is like the end of the prologue. This might be like it's the setup of all the mystery, and now it's going to be like, okay, now let's look at like actually figuring out what happened. Mini games. I don't remember a mini game. Maybe they had like a other thing too that came out. Higurashi when they cry. Dang, what a crazy ending. I had no idea that was coming. Pardon me. Holy crap, that was insane. June something 2003. So several years in the future, like 20 years in the future. An elderly couple living in Osaka Prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son, who passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds and came across a cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the deceased had experienced working as a journalist for a photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. The label on the tape read 11/28/1983 Keiichi Maribara. It's thought the tape was recorded during an interview with Keiichi Maribara, the only survivor of the Great Hinamizawa disaster that occurred in June of 1983. As the only person who lived through the disaster on the night of June 21st, shrouded in mystery, many interesting parties attempted to question him, but he never once spoke physically to anyone in the public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being of extremely high value. Click.
なんだか録音されてると思うと、すごく喋りにくいですね。
気にしない気にしない。ほら、こうすれば録音してるのも気にならないでしょ。
After this, the sound quality dramatically decreases. He hit it. Did he cover the recording device or something?
じゃあ始めるね。まず最初の質問から。圭一君はあの大災害の夜どこにいたのかな？
神社から裏に抜けて、ずっと林道を進んで、吊り橋があるんですよ。山に入る少し前に。そこから落ちて気を失ってました。
それは大災害の夜、つまり21日から22日にかけての深夜のこと？
いいえ、21日の火曜日の朝です。それで、次の日の昼間に目を覚ましたわけですから。
どうしてそんなところに？誰もが持つ疑問だけど、当日は平日で、しかも落ちた橋は君の家と学校からは大きく離れているよね。ざっくばらんに言って、君が大災害の発生を事前に知っていて、村から逃げる途中に吊り橋から落ちたんじゃないかっていう声もあるんだけど。
冗談じゃないです。勝手なことを言わないでください。
私も随分ひどい言い分だと思うよ。気を悪くしないでね。さて、次に圭一君が落ちたという吊り橋なんだけれども、
This guy is really prepared.
地図で言うとここだよね。神社の裏から林道を抜けて至る吊り橋というのは。
多分、俺もあんまり行かないところなので。
そんなに行かないところに
どうして平日の朝に行ったのか。それで、この君が気絶していたという河原なんだけど、
Yeah.
実はそれはありえないという噂は知っているかい？
ありえない。また、ありえないで
Yes.
すか。
That word again.
また、まだ。
For a little while, Keiichi Maribara mutters the word impossible several times.
どうして、ありえないと？
火山ガスが発生したのは、
Yeah, it would have gone right through there.
それで、学者の先生が緻密な模型を使ってシミュレーションをしたら、興味深いことが分かったんです
That's what I thought too. Like, he should have been in the middle of it. He should have died.
例の火山ガスってのは空気よりも重いらしくて、地形に沿って低いところへ低いところへ流れ込む水みたいな性質があるんだってさ。それで発生源の鬼ヶ淵沼からそういうガスが噴出し、どれくらいの時間をかけて村を覆うのか実験がされたんだ。そしたらさ、君が気絶していたという河原、流れ込むんだよ、ガスが。
Yeah.
よく言ってる意味がわからないんですが。
つまり、君が本当にこの河原で気絶していたなら、君は丸一晩、猛毒の火山ガスの中にいたことになるんだ。
So again, he couldn't have been there.
だからつまり、君がここで気絶をしていた可能性は否定されたわけさ。もっとざっくばらんに言うよ。私はね、君が嘘をついているんじゃないかなって思うんだ。君は大災害の時、安全なところに身を潜めていて、ガスが薄れた頃合いを見計らって村に現れて自衛隊の人に保護された。
He also shouldn't have been able to survive that fall.
どうかな？図星かな？
For a short time, the journalist pressed Keiichi Maribara further in a teasing way, but all that could be heard is heavy sighs.
別に。仮にそうだったとしても、俺は今更驚きませんけどね。
驚かないとはどういう意味だい？
Was this recording really taken of Keiichi Maribara? Some harbor suspicions. You said it before, didn't you?
ありえないって、あのひなみ沢では、ありえないことなんて、いくらでも起こるんです。死んだはずの人が生きてる。そんなこと、珍しいことじゃないんですよ。まさか、俺自身が、死んだはずなのに生きているってやつを、
Oh, that's
立証しようとはね。
yeah, that's kind of a sick joke almost. The journalist and Keiichi Maribara both laugh for a while. Oh, that's just creepy. Something was wrong with this guy too. To verify his authenticity, I had the others in the Maribara family.
話を変えるよ。
I had others in the Maribara family check the tapes with his voice in it. However, the sound was not clear. As much time had passed, so the relatives I checked with couldn't remember what he sounded like. It was unable to gain positive proof it was actually his voice.
あの大災害が、Hinamizawa連続開始事件の5年目のたたりではないかという話についてはどう思う？
いや、それはないですね。5年目のたたりは俺ですから。
I was the curse that year.
え？何のこと？
何のことって、あんたの話に対する答えですよ。あの大災害は、まあ、言っても信じないでしょうけど。
Doubts also remained regarding the date November 28 written on the tape.
俺が起こしたんです。俺がね、こんな村、丸ごと死んじまえって願ったから。
そりゃ豪快な話だね。
豪快？そういう面白い言い方もあるんですね。高野さんも俺が殺したし、監督も大石も俺が殺した。
After Maribara Keiichi's failed suicide attempt on a certain August day, 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with a mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility.
あの時の俺にはね、何か神がかり的な力が宿ってたんですよ。そう。例えるなら、足音かな。
Footsteps.
足音？って、なんだいそれ。
あんた、足音を聞いたこともないんですか？ペタペタ、ひたひた。 あんたも今日からは歩いてるとき、不意に立ち止まってみると面白いですよ。
The facility never allowed any news coverage, so it's extremely unlikely that a tape from that media dated after August 8, 1983 would have his voice on it. So when you're walking, suddenly, stopping suddenly, something interesting will happen.
それでね、自分がちゃんと立ち止まったにもかかわらず、気をつけた方がいいですよ。
Oh, that's terrifying.
そうだね。気をつけるようにするよ。
そんなに俺、面白いこと話してますか？あんた、さっきからヘラヘラと笑ってばかりですね。
However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful methods in collecting data while he was active, so there's a possibility that he broke into the facility and forced Keiichi Maribara to talk.
監督と同じだ。俺のことを同情したり、話を聞いたりしてるふりをしながら、その実、人のことを異常者扱いしてる目だ。
Yeah.
そんなことはないよ。
いや、俺にはわかるんです。
Yeah, he's not doing a good job of actually lying there.
あんたの目は監督と同じだ。あの日以来、もう足音は聞こえない。
If this is truly Keiichi Maribara's voice, the authenticity of this recording is still wrapped in mystery.
だから俺にはもう、あんな恐ろしい力は残ってないだろうけど、今ここでもう一度、あんたの死を願ってみるよ。俺に不愉快な話ばかりをする。あんたの死を。そうだな。今回は一つ、死に方も決めてみようかな。
Oh?
高野さんは焼け死にだったから。じゃああんたは逆に水だ。水に溺れて死ぬってのはどうだい？
Oh, that'd be so creepy. 15 years after the tape was created, the reporter...
絶好調だった当時の俺なら、次の朝までには必ず死んでる。
15 years after the tape was created, the reporter, just as Keiichi Maribara had predicted, died in an accident out on sea, but he's saying it was going to happen the next day, so not quite.
さてあんたは、何日後に水で死ぬかな？
Oh. That's terrifying. The crazy Keiichi eyes.
あんたも気をつけろよ。俺ごときにたたり殺されるな。
Don't go getting yourself killed by some stupid curse put on you, okay? But like, how would you read that line? Because like, I don't know if he did anything special with the Japanese there, but that's ugh. The recording ends in the middle of Keiichi Maribara's laughter. And Keiichi Maribara. Late in the night of August 30th, 1983, 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from a high fever, cause unknown. Records remain of the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button on the day before he died. An extra set of footsteps. He was hearing it again. Maybe because he cursed him, like he tried to invoke the curse again, and so it brought it back, and it came for him finally. Oh, that's creepy. Higurashi when they cry. Welcome to Hinamizawa. All cast review session. Yay! Fetch me. Maybe we have to do that as a separate part, because this has already been like a 50-minute thing. Learn what happened next. The Great Hinamizawa Disaster. Okay. Alright. What do I do? I really don't have the time to dive into it full time. Again, we're gonna have to stop that here. Fetch me. Okay. I know this is not going to be what you want to hear. I'm really sorry, but I really think I have to stop here, and we'll have to do the actual cast later. I had no idea it was going to have such a long outro. Holy crap. That was insane. The whole thing's insane. Oh, this game. I can't handle it. It keeps messing with me. I have no idea what to expect about this. So again, I honestly, if I had planned this better, and I expected it was going to be an hour, maybe hour and a half, but that could be another hour, hour and a half on top of what I've already done, and I just do not have time right now. So we're going to end it here. Okay. What I really want to know is, does this disaster, is it like a canon event? Like at the end of the other routes, does the disaster still happen, or did it just happen in this? And is it real, or is it not? How am I supposed to digest any of this? How am I supposed to be like, yeah, I know what this is, or I know what's going on, or I have no earthly idea what's going on? It doesn't make any sense, even in his own story, in his own recollection. The idea, like I even thought of, like I mentioned it before. It's like, it's odd that he'd be lying in a riverbank and somehow survive when the gas is what killed everybody, because it would have, like, it goes to the low points, like water. Like, exactly. Anywhere near water would have been the most dangerous places to be. So how is he okay? Unless the gas originated from him. But even then, it's like, what the fetch? It's so crazy. Oh, well. Anyway, hope you don't mind. We're going to end things here for now. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. I certainly enjoyed myself. It's been a really good time, and I'm very excited to be able to share this with you. Hopefully, you come back for more next week as we do the all-cast party and finally put Chapter 3 to rest a whole week later than I expected we would. So thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and until the next video you're watching me up to see me in next. I'll see you there.